All right, I'd like to call the September 6, 2016 special meeting, it's the Port Committee meeting. I got a special meeting in my head from this conversation before at 5:05. Stand for the pledge first.
Regular meeting.
Do roll call first.
Councilmember
Present.
Bartoloni? Councilmember Black?
Here.
Councilmember Burt?
Here.
Councilmember Trufant Salvian is absent.
Pledge allegiance. Yeah, Ms. Sullivan was in another meeting. She texted me and she said she should be running a few minutes late, so hopefully she comes. All right, item 2, old business. I don't think we have any. Move to item 3A, new business. Discussion of American Patriot Holdings exclusivity agreement. Exclusivity agreement, I'm sorry. It's late, sorry. Sandy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the Port Committee, and fellow citizens of Plaquemines Parish. The discussion with American Patriot Holdings exclusivity agreement. Y'all have met the 3 principals of American Patriot Holdings. They have been involved with our pre-feasibility studies on the container port. And we are at that point where they need the exclusivity to be able to go over to Germany and start ordering the boats. So we have drawn up an exclusivity that I'll be passing out at a future date, but we ask that this be introduced.
And what does that tie us into anything, into any specific contracts with APH or?
It's, if we're going to do their concept of container on vessel, then we would use them.
All right, first let me ask you, are we still under an NDA?
Yes, sir.
In regards to the vessel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that will be resolved or lifted prior to?
Well, once this is signed, then we'll actually go out and start marketing with them on that vessel.
So that'd be the first step to lifting the NDA?
To elevate, yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not sure if anyone from the table has any questions? Nope, I don't.
In addition to the boat, what about the actual placement or what piece of property are they gonna, that hadn't been decided yet? Property?
The property for the container port?
Is it all connected, the agreement, with the
Is it-
parcel of land?
Right.
Right.
Is it tied into the exclusivity agreement?
No, this is just to use their service if we decide to use that type of service. And again, they don't want to order a boat and not be assured that we're going to use them.
To quote from the part of the agreement, it's an exclusivity agreement for the purpose of developing exclusive and efficient U.S. Jones Act inland marine transportation for container movements in and out of Plaquemines Port. That's a broad overview.
Yeah. So basically, if you've been following the port operations, the port is in the process of possibly developing a container port, a container terminal, discussing with terminal operators, et cetera. APH, who I think everybody's met at one of the regularly scheduled port meetings, came in and pretty much gave a presentation of what they do. They didn't do a slideshow, but they actually did it on the tail end of, I think, Trident's or somebody else's at some point. We're under an NDA because they have a patent on a particular vessel.
The design is proprietary.
The design is proprietary. But after this is done, I think all of that will be pretty much exposed as to the path forward. I think all council members have been briefed on it and have participated in separate meetings with APH. Am I right? Has everybody
sir.
pretty much been briefed on that?
Absolutely.
Is this the company who Trident didn't want to tell us that night who they were because of the they said that they couldn't because of client. Is this them? Because I can't find anything on this company. Who owns it?
Yeah, well, actually, they came and rebutted some of those issues at
And they also met with-
the following council meeting. Yeah, American Patriot Holdings, it's three gentlemen out of, I want to say, is it New York State or,
Two Florida and one Houston.
Clark.
Right.
yeah.
2 Florida, 1 Houston.
Well, I mean, they don't have a license here, that's why I was there. I mean, they're not registered, I should say that. And I didn't know who they were. But I know they wouldn't give us the name of the company at the port meeting, Trident wouldn't.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I remember that council meeting, and then subsequent meetings, they came back in and gave a presentation. And I can get you a date on that to review those meetings, but as far as the introduction goes with that, do we want to, since it's a resolution, right? Yes, sir, it is. So I guess we have two options. We can have a special meeting just to introduce the resolution, or we could suspend the rules at the regularly scheduled port meeting at the end of September.
Yes, sir. We would like to have this in place, if at all possible, by the end of September.
Okay.
Executed by the end of September.
I mean, I'll ask the rest of the committee what your recommendation is. If you want to have just a quick introduction, special meeting at the meeting this Thursday, and just to introduce it, or should we just suspend the rules and introduce it and vote on it on the 28th?
Well, I think things, that the magnitude of this particular investment thing we're rolling in, we need to put it out.
Okay, I'm
And
fine with
have
that.
transparency so everybody can understand, rather than come in and do a suspension, because it seems as though we be trying to do some underneath stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
Handed, and you don't want that to happen.
right.
And I honestly believe that we need to put it out there first.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll have a special meeting immediately prior to the council meeting on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
And basically, all we're going to do is just introduce this. That way, the public can see the introduction for the next 2 weeks,
Excellent.
and then we'll vote on it, hopefully vote on it at the last council meeting in September.
Good.
So, Barbara, I appreciate it. Any other questions, Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, I had one, we're from the outside looking in, we don't really know a lot of what you're talking about. But, I saw the presentation by the three gentlemen and everything. My question is, this is almost like a new project, a new guinea pig situation. I mean, that they're coming up with a concept on to offload containers onto barges.
Yeah, it's the same concept that's been happening probably for 100 years. It's just a better method to do it. It's a better vessel, better, it's a more efficient and effective way to do it as opposed to using tugs and barges.
It provides
It's on a larger
shippers,
scale.
Mr. Lawrence, with another option to, when their cargo comes off the ship, the onward movement of that cargo. If it's got to be there as fast as possible, then they would say, send it by rail, which would cost more. But if the cargo does not have to be there the next day, then the shipper could probably save quite a bit of money and have it go up on this particular type vessel. So it just gives the shippers more arrows in the quiver to pick from, which makes our port more attractive.
Right. And these three guys, I have a lot of confidence in them. They're all graduates of
Maritime.
The Maritime Academy.
30 years. I think they all have U.S. Navy experience, and, I mean, it's quite substantial. And
It's their money and their risk.
we're not putting up anything right now. I mean, that's
I just, from the public standpoint, when you're looking at it, you say, well, where is this type vessel being used? And it's not being used right now. This is a
yeah, I don't think it
concept-
is. No, it's not.
That's what I'm saying. This is a concept of a vessel
Right.
that they have proposed, they're the maritime people.
Right.
Say, if we put, instead of a flat barge, we put it on this vessel, it probably has an unloading and a loading
Right.
capability more substantial than just a barge situation.
Well, I would be more than ecstatic to be the port that actually implements this type of vessel for the first time in the world. I mean, and I think it's got that potential.
And as long as, it's not costing us anything, and it goes back to where is this going to take place? We're talking about the vessel, and we're not talking about the site. Are they going to be responsible for the site and buy a site? Or
No.
are we going to?
No, and Sandy can talk about it a little bit more, but there's going to have to be a terminal operator come in and basically develop a terminal. The port's not going to develop the terminal. The terminal operator is to come in who sees an opportunity with this particular company, APH, to say, hey, look, you have this. we need to put a terminal, and that's who's gonna pretty much come in. I think,
I just didn't know whether
It's
the
for the
port was
port,
gonna
it's for
go
the-
in and buy land
yes,
again,
yes, it is for the port to buy the property,
to buy the property
right,
and
and
then
then
move
lease it,
for
and
us.
lease it to the terminal operator,
Yes,
right.
okay. But these may not be the terminal operator.
No, they're not gonna be the terminal
They're not,
operators.
okay.
They're just they're just a shipper.
Who will actually own the vessel?
They will,
That's what
Yeah.
they want to put on money.
right.
But it seems like if we don't have an operator that's in with this group, that said, yes, it seems like,
No, I gotta show you that Sandy and APH, has been meeting with terminal operators
okay,
because you can't do one without the other, obviously.
right, no, that's,
You know, so,
okay.
anyone else have any questions on A? All right, item B, discussion of millage courses of action.
We received today the answer that we were looking from the bank to entertain the realm of the possible of us lowering our millage to keep our overall millage rate within the parish at a lower rate in an effort to assist our parish keeping the business we already have. And as I said, it was as of, I received this email at 2:59. And that, and I read, this is from Chase Bank. It said, I've been told by the bank that they had just approved the millage reduction for a term of 1 year. We asked them if we could take it from 3 mills down to as low as 1.5. And they stated that yes, they can, down to 1.5 mills, a reduction for a term of 1 year. So if we want to do this the year after that, we would have to go through the same exercise, get explicit permission to do that. I read it further. Our legal department is drafting a document that would need to be signed by both parties, and we can expect that anywhere from 12 to 14 days of execution. So we came up with some different courses of action, but all that would be moot if the bank would not allow us to do this. And so in essence, they have blessed this, that they will allow it for 1 year. If you want to do it again the following year, we would have to go through this same exercise.
So this is the option, for everybody's knowledge, that I proposed to go down from 3 to 1.5, which basically would reduce our millages, obviously 1.5. And then we do it again next year and at 1.5, and then pay off the remaining balance.
And
So we're
so
saving
in
the
that
taxpayers
case-
1.5 mils this year, as opposed to a lot of people who's rolling up. We're gonna be actually the only probably governing body who's gonna be cutting substantially 1.5 mils.
So this allows us the 4 different options, if you want me to hit the wave, Thomas.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Option 1 was just to keep it the way we had. Again, the 3 mills that were collected in 2016, and fully retire the bonds in May of 17. So the beginning year balance was 3.8 million. The estimated collection of that millage was 2.8, so the port would come out of pocket $976,000 to pay the difference, and we would fully retire that 3 mills.
In 2017.
Yes, sir. Option 2, and again, this is when we were looking at decreasing the millage in an overall effect of the entire parish, reducing the total mills levied. Right now, I believe it is 65.5 mills.
65.3.
65.3. So all the taxing authorities, we had a meeting, and we were looking at the possibility of reducing our millage to make our parish attractive, not only for new business to come here, but to keep the business that's already here from leaving.
And what was the reduction on 2?
So option 2 was reducing it from 3 to 1.5 for 2016 and 1.5 for 2017.
And that's the option that we needed the bank's approval.
Yes.
And the bank has allowed us to reduce it down to 1.5.
Okay. So we would collect About
So-
3 million.
On the first year, the balance, we would collect 1.4 million, and then the port would come out of pocket 551,000. Again, the next year, we would collect the 1.4 million, and this time, the port would make up the difference, and that would be 465,000. So the total payment by the port would be 1,017,000. So again, just to compare that to the first option said we just go along as we were with 3 mills, and at the end of that year, we would discontinue all 3 mills, and the port would pay $976,000 to retire the debt.
Okay.
Option 2, we would collect 1.5 this year and 1.5 next year. The port would make up the difference in both of those years for a total of $1,017,000.
Okay.
Option 3, the port was going to collect 2 mills instead of 3 mills, and then pay the balance. So the 2 mills collection would be 1.888 million, and then the port would have to come up a little shy of 2 million. The next 2 years would be a total of 1.96 million to retire the debt.
Okay. Then 4.
And the fourth was where the port would completely just eat the debt right now.
And pretty much extinguish the land.
It would, yes, bury our land fund.
Well, before I open it up to the table, I mean, you know my opinion on it. I think the 1.5 option is the way to go. I think the port comes up with 1 million. We reduce the burden to the taxpayer by 1.5 mils this year and next year, and then we retire it.
That gives the parish, in athletic terms, a little bit more salary cap to work with other taxing authorities if we take off $1.5 million.
Right.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but we all know that that goes a long ways in trying to keep us under
it does.
that salary cap.
All right, I'll open it to the table.
What's the land fund balance right now?
3.8.
As of June 30th, the land fund balance was, as of June 30th with tariff fees, and then we recently did 2 legislations that removed the $150 for the drainage and the $90,000 for the grant match, and that gave us a balance of $4,686 and, I'm sorry, $4,686,650.
And to retire that debt in full, we would pay 3.8.
3.8.
So that leaves us less than $1 million. And, you know, the example I gave is after Katrina, we didn't collect for an entire year.
John?
How much we collect on each mill?
It's in the neighborhood of.
$1 million?
No,
Million
let me do the math real quick. I'll let you know right now.
But it's roughly, I think, $1 million.
933,000, I think.
Not a
Yeah,
million?
yeah. 933 is fairly close.
Yeah, 3 mills give you 3.8.
How much?
3 mills give you 3.8.
2.8.
Yeah,
2.8.
2.8.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yes, 2.8, I'm sorry.
So it's
Looking
about
at
940.
And how much is the debt?
3.8.
So if we keep the 3 point in, we'll come up with 2.8, and we have a deficit of less than $1 million.
976.
Huh?
If we did 3 mills this year
Yeah.
and paid off the debt, the port would come out of pocket $976,071.
Next year.
This year, yeah, in 17,
Yeah.
yes.
And we're still paying that amount anyway, right? The next 2 years.
Well, you
So-
save 41,000.
Yeah. So my thing
Versus
would be
the
that, I mean,
one
if
and
you
a
do it
half
only
and one and a
1
half.
year, you'll save that other half the following year, that you wouldn't be collecting taxes. And that'll mean there'll be a great incentive if we don't have any taxes at all. That's what I look at.
It's reduced by right, correct, in
Yeah.
2017. And on the same hand, the port saves $41,000 worth of interest
Right.
that way.
So I think I'd rather see you continue with the 3 for a year, and should pay it off and close it at the end. And you finish with it.
The only problem is if we remain at 3, and I got a feeling a bunch of the taxing bodies, we're gonna levy the max.
Well, they're gonna do that regardless.
Well, it's not gonna be as
Some of
big
them,
of a
not all
hit.
of them, but you-
Not all of them, but I mean.
You got
I think
2
the-
gonna do it.
I think a couple of them are gonna do it, and
So,
by reducing it by $1.5 million, it's gonna keep us attractive to get business in here.
I don't know about that, because I believe what we already said, they're paying it, and they're aware of it, and we're cheaper than anybody else, as far as that is concerned. Everybody else is paying more taxes than that, as far as port activity. It's not the port component that's killing us, it's the outside stuff that's killing us. It's not the port tax that is being collected. I mean, that's just the way I see it, you know.
Right.
That's how I feel about that.
My question.
Yes.
I know I had asked this question about 2 or 3 months ago in a board meeting about the money. Again, why would we?
If you wanna use the podium. you
Oh,
can.
that's fine, okay. Why we were being taxed on it to begin with, was my question. I don't know, still haven't got an answer where the money was come from. I've talked to Bo, I've talked to Charlie, both, and we still don't have an answer. So my concern is this: that's all great, getting the millage down, but why do we have one to begin with? There was money that was spent, 9.3 million actually is what was wired for the port, that apparently you all had, because to wire money, you have to have cash, which was done in 2013. We didn't take the bond out to 2014, and the mortgage wasn't registered in the clerk's office till 2014, but yet it was purchased in 2013. If we had it, why are we being taxed to begin with? All of this 3, 1.5 going down on stuff, I don't think we should be responsible for it at all if you had the money. And obviously you did. My other question is that if the port banks at Regions and Founders Title, which is Dwyer, Cambry, and Suffern, Susan Cambry's business, all of the money was sent from a bank that we don't even have an account with, Capital One, and it was a non-repetitive wire, which means that there's no account there for that, but yet the closing documents show that it went to the Bank of Paris. So I'm just a little confused of why we're being taxed to begin with if we had the money to pay for it. And then again, why was it recorded in 2014 when it was done December 6, 2013? I mean, I'm very much, I know there'll be taxes about everything, but the way that this has fallen into place with the bond not being taken out to the next year, and then we're being taxed for it, but you had the money.
That's incorrect. The bonds were taken out that year. The 9.3 million you're referring to was actually proceeds from the bond sale.
The bond papers I have that, well, on the disc that Christie gave me, and it's 2014 from Adams and Reese. Yeah, I printed them off. I have them in my bag too. They're from
We had,
2014.
you were gonna send us a list of questions at that meeting, which we didn't get, but I did have that entire timeline ready for you, and I didn't bring it today, but I do have it
No,
at the
it's on the
office.
disc that you gave me.
Right, but the
Right.
actual closing date for the bond, we have that whole
It was
timeline.
October 2014. I have that. Right, but that's not 2013. This was paid in December 6, 2013, and we had the cash to do it. My question is, why did we take the bond out in 2014 if we had the money to do it?
We did
I know,
not have the money to do
we
it.
didn't.
That's
It
why
was
we
all
had to
done
do the
during,
bond
at that same
issue.
time at the act of sale. I have it all at the office, and it's all highlighted.
No, I got it right here. I mean, I printed it off.
Okay.
Let me just let the record reflect that Miss Audrey Salman has arrived in the building. Over here. just to get everybody up to speed, what we're talking about, we were on item 3B, discussion of millage courses of action. We discussed 4 different options. The bank has approved the option B, which was 1.5 this year, 1.5 next year. That's one of the questions we were waiting on.
Correction, the bank has approved one time.
Sorry, the one time 1.5 this year, then
Yes, sir.
we come back for reassessment next year. And then Ms. Wilcox is asking a question about the 9.3 million, whether or not the port had those funds prior to passing the bond, yeah. Do we have that information, Christie, as far as?
No, I didn't,
I have a copy of the bond index here.
but I had gone
We-
through after her
yeah.
questions at
Right.
that meeting months ago, and I had put it all together with the timeline and everything, which I didn't bring, I didn't know it was even an issue at this point, with all the documentation, when the actual closing went, when the wires went through. I have that in my office.
This is, I printed it off of the disc you gave me. It's right here.
It all came out of the same documents.
Well, that's what I'm saying, well, that's where I printed it off, that's the timeline, this right here.
Mr. Russo,
I'm waiting till, is it my turn?
whenever you want.
It's what,
Yeah, there's- I have
My
all-
question is that has the option of the complete payoff been approved or looked at, or just the 1-and-1?
Yes, I don't think there's any issue with the payoff.
So we can pay
We
off?
can pay off in full,
So
yes.
then, I'll restate my position as I've stated over the last several months, that my position is that the port pay off the bond, eliminate the 3 mil and allow that to go in the overall picture of trying to get our millage as low as possible by the school board, the council, and the sheriff, not increasing their millage any more than that, than they have to. So I think that the public would be appreciative if you would pay the bond off, and their tax bills would be somewhat lower than they will be if you don't reduce the millage.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Just to reiterate what the port director said, if we pay off the bond in its entirety, it will reduce our land fund from 4.6 million to around 800,000. Mr. Lawrence?
Can you give it to me
Yeah.
tomorrow? And I can have it all
I
highlighted.
just want to comment
I
on
can
that.
I'll
Again, I'm
break it down
looking
for
at the
you.
option
am
number
I
4.
delusional?
And if you're going to have
That's
almost $1
2014.
billion, let's say
I have to look and
$750
see what
million
I'm-
left in the land
I mean, that came up, but that's.
What do you
that's your
you
point.
have enough revenue coming in to operate. That land fund
I know
has
it's
nothing to
highlighted
do
dates,
with your
wires.
operating for the next year, 2 years, or anything.
hold
That's in case you want to purchase land.
Just comment on
What I look
Well, you
at
gave it
is
to
we go right back to where we were when they first started land purchases.
No, only did one.
It can come right back that we pay off this debt, and the port committee still has the right to come out without going to the people and pass another millage.
The
But
port
not-
committee doesn't have that
Well,
authority, the council.
The council, okay, but that had taken place, and you know, the public is looking at it and saying, well, what stops them to come back and do the same thing again? They don't have to go to the public. And if we need money for a land fund, let's face it, when we're ready to purchase land, you're keeping almost $1 million in a land fund, and you're not ready to, or are you ready to purchase land? And if you are ready to purchase land, what land are you purchasing?
Right.
I always said all along is that we looked at the ag center. Why isn't the port helping the parish get out of debt and purchase the ag center?
Well, that's
In
gonna be a
other words, if
question.
we have money
Yeah.
in the land fund, why can't we use that money? The parish owns the AG center. It's a port facility. I mean, it sits on the port. The parish has no use for it.
Right.
And I'm just saying is, they want to help out the parish. What is going to happen to that piece of land that you're looking for, whether it be that terminal to come in?
Right.
That's sufficient, something in that nature.
Right. Let's discuss that in item F, land acquisition,
Right.
and we can talk about,
Okay, because
Yeah.
I'm
No,
looking
I
at
agree.
the land acquisition money.
Right.
That's something that can help the parish if the parish has excess land to sell.
Right.
You have money in a land fund.
Right.
Why can't you purchase non-usable property from the town?
Okay, and we'll discuss that a little bit further in length on land acquisition. Maybe he'll answer the question, I don't know. Maybe
I
he'll.
look at it number 4 as being what the public should be looking for. Pay it out. If it leaves us almost $1 million in the land fund, so be it.
Right.
Okay, Chrissy's gonna I'm gonna give a.
Ms. Wilcox?
I'm gonna, this recording date says the 2014 for the bond, for the mortgage on the property. And this, the wiring papers in the back show different, shows 2013. Then they did have to amend the resolution for the first time when they asked for the millage to be, the levy to be taxed. They did a resolution in 2013 for it, but that was just for the tax they put on. It wasn't for the bond at the time.
Right.
And then they went back from the bond commission and got the bond. 2014 is the date on the closing papers from Jones Walker. It's June 11th, 2014. Just so, let's see. I mean, I'm not.
Is there any,
I read something wrong or, what, I mean, tell me, I just.
is there any way the port can just, at the next meeting or something, just clarify, kind of maybe, answer some of these questions?
Well, we were prepared to respond to the questions if we'd have received them.
Okay, are we clear on the questions?
Now, well, yes.
Okay.
With
Ms. Wilcox,
Ms. Wilcox been invited to
clear on
the
the
office.
questions? At the next port meeting, I would say on the 28th. Well, I'll put it on the agenda, and we can have an answer to the questions. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Oh, no, well, I'm just trying to keep in order so that way when I go see her, I can see what the discrepancy is.
Okay. I mean, does that satisfy? Is
Well,
that,
it does, it's just that I think that going forward, we're trying to decide on a tax to keep, to stay, to stop, when we may not have needed one in the first place. What I'm saying is to reduce it, is what I mean, to reduce it
Right.
and have all this stuff, if we didn't need it in the first place, I guess is my.
honest, I
That's,
fully understand you.
Concern, that's all.
No, I fully understand your question. So is the port, is fine with that? Yes, sir. Can get that answered?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilcox. Thank you, Mr. Russo. Do we have any other questions or concerns on item 3B? All right, with none, we'll move to item 3C. Ms. Wilcox.
This is contracting with,
You gonna let me read that?
I'm out of coffee.
Discussion of contracting with Canada and Company CPA's resolution to be offered.
okay, the port has used Cam Netter and Company CPAs to do our audit work. We're satisfied with their work, and so we offered a resolution or to discuss to continue using their professional services.
Any questions, comments from the table? Any questions or comments from the audience or anybody?
Remember, it's a company, Mr. Chairman, that we've been using all along, but this is some
How
new
long have you been
contract.
using Mr. Cam Netta?
3 years.
Yeah, we've been using them since the separation of 2013.
Is there any discrepancy or conflict of interest with Lori Myers working for them?
know if
She
she
still works
does.
for our financial department. She works part-time at ChemNet, a CPA firm.
Well, I have no knowledge of her
Yeah, neither
working.
do I.
I do know that the ChemNeta and Company is approved by the state legislative auditors. They're on the list as approved auditors. We have been using them for the past 3 years. As auditors, one of the processes that they have to go to get on this list, they are audited by other auditors. We received a letter from the other auditors that audit them, and we see no problem, no issues of independence have been brought to our attention.
Okay, Mr. Birdhead.
No, I mean, Lori don't work for the port, so I don't know if there'd be a conflict or not.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's a governmental, it's a government owned by the parish, Platinum Parish government. It's an entity that's controlled by the
I'm not
government.
sure.
It is controlled by the government.
Let's follow,
Parish
let's follow up with that, just to make sure that there's no issues.
Whether or not Lori is employed by them.
Well, if she is,
Question is-
just, if she is, have Mr. Cam Netter or somebody in his office, or even yourself, confirm that that's not a conflict of interest? Let's just,
Being the auditor for the parish, our finance, the manager, her role was that, and then when she retired, then does it give her the right to seek the company that we doing business with? And when she was doing the job, she worked with that particular company hand on hand.
And an opinion, in addition to that, Mr. Chairman, an opinion from Mr. Cam Netter would not be the one that we would want to be seeking. We need to get an independent opinion of whether it would be a conflict or not, you know. And my whole deal for asking is because this information was passed on to me, and I think we need to rid ourselves of all of this convoluted stuff that's been going on in the past. If there's an issue, we need to address it and move on from it. And if there's no issue, well, then we same thing, we can move on for it. But, you know, we can't just continue playing all of these little games. You know, it kind of, you know, leads me to believe that it could be some type of misbehaving going on, you know, if you will.
If I may, I do have the knowledge that Kim Netter and Company is the same company that audits the medical center. So, I mean, he also does that entity also.
He does almost everything. He's been doing that for, he was Bill's personal CPA too. I mean, that's not a secret.
We have no jurisdiction over the hospital.
Right.
Right.
But I think whether or not it's an ethical question.
If there's an issue, let's run it to ground.
Right.
And if it's
It's an ethical
baseless,
question that you
okay.
can have,
And if the
nothing
AG
else.
says there's a conflict, then we correct it and move on. Plain and simple.
Ms. Lawrence?
Yes, just the cost on this, has it gone up, has it gone down, is it standard rate, is it competitive? Have we looked at what other port authorities are using and, you know, for the size of our port, what are we paying?
Right.
What are the bang for the buck?
In 2013, we hired Kim Netter and Company to do the audit. In the following year, when their contract was up for approval, a request for quotes was also requested then. I did go out and I requested quotes in October of 2014, and again, Kim Netter and Company's, their company came in at the most competitive quote, and we went ahead and we stood with them. Doing auditing work, when you hire a firm, you have to consider their knowledge, their pre-knowledge that they have over your company, which gives them a cost benefit. I've spoke with a number of different accountants, as also the parish. The parish doesn't switch their auditors that often either, and that's because of the cost effectiveness that it shows. The money that you would pay for an auditor or a new auditing firm to come in each year to evaluate your company, get familiar with your company, get familiar with the laws, the regulations, the charters, and all of those things, in order to properly audit your books, that will the cost would go up every year. You would pay more and more for them to become familiar with your company. It's not against the law to use the same company, and it's actually most entities will go at least 5 to 8 years before they seek additional quotes to get a new auditor because of the cost-benefit analysis to switching auditors. And this is only our 3rd year in operation. They've done the audit for 3 years. This would be our 4th. And 2017 would be the 5th year being audited.
And understand too that the auditing firm is actually audited to see if their test and various compliance reviews that they've done are in good standing. And as Chambrell alluded to earlier, as of 2013, Kim Netter and him received a pass, i.e. that everything was fine, that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
And no, their cost has not increased over the last 3 years. I apologize. It has not.
And if I may comment further on that goes into the good old boys network, whether it be a contractor that's doing business with the parish, if they're in front of anybody else. Once you get them in, they know your system, so it's gonna cost you money to get out. If they go out of business tomorrow, when they came in here, they were a new company. I don't know who was before them. How much did it cost us to bring them in and become a new company?
Mr. Lawrence, that was 3 years ago.
Oh, I know.
I've been in office for 2 years. It wasn't me.
I know,
So
I'm not
all I'm
saying-
saying is, this is the company we have. It's a no-cost increase. You know,
Well,
so-
before, prior to the separation, we were under the parish's audit.
Okay.
We were
Right.
part of the parish's financial statements, so whatever auditor they use, which is they've been using the same one since 1999 to my knowledge, they went out for quotes, about 4 or
Was it this
5.
company?
No, it was not the same company, it was,
Total champagne.
Yeah, so there we go,
Champagne, yes.
there we go.
They've been
Okay.
using
We
them
changed 3 years
since,
ago,
yes.
went off to RFQ. They had the low RFQ, and they've been in operation with the port for 3 years, and it's just a contract renewal at no cost increase.
Okay.
I mean,
And you know, I mean, it's just like your own personal account and everything, whether it's insurance or anything else. When you look out into the sea, sometimes you can fish and catch a better serving fish at a better price or the same price.
Right.
I'm not saying you can or you can't. There's other firms out there that if they got quotes 2 years ago to compare, why can't they get a quote right now for a company to come in and quote against them? If it's, even if you're not ready, if some company comes in and gives you a better, somebody who worked for them that branched off now, he knows your system as well as anybody else.
Well, if someone, but that's when you fall into the independence laws and when it comes to auditing, because anyone who worked in your accounting department, they cannot leave and then come back and audit your records for at least, I want to say 5 years.
2 years.
Well, you know,
Two.
they've been doing it for 3 years now, and 3 years ago was different regime, I know. But Ed Camnetta was working for Land Marine Services, and they were Gordon Portease. He had the contract with Chad Breland for that. So how did he get this contract with
Well,
another
Bill,
contract?
the parish had no involvement in the port's financial statements, no involvement. So whatever Kim Netta and Company did for whoever associated with the parish, the parish administration has no influence. They have nothing to do with our financial statements.
And just to clear up my
But no, but they
point.
did at the time, though.
well,
They
just
did
one
at
at a
that
time.
Yeah, just to clear up my point, it's nothing against the company at all. They may well be worth renewing, and it may be at the same cost. That don't mean that you shouldn't be going out and seek quotes.
It's free.
That's all, just screening it out to say, we are getting a good deal.
They're not? To get a quote, to get a,
Takes her time to get them.
It's
No,
what?
she's talking about the company. that
supports
put a-
I'm talking about the company.
The company
that-
put a bid in. It doesn't cost.
All right, let's get back on track, Ms. Sullivan.
Okay.
My only point in this would be that it's the recommendation of the court staff that they would like to go with the Cam Netter group. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is, I want to make sure it's not a conflict. If we have a previous employee or a part-time employee that's working for us and working for this auditing firm, I needed
Can you guys run everything out?
I will,
please?
yes.
Thank you. Any other questions on C?
Wait, let me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is what Cam Netta's report. The very last sentence, he says, "We do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on the information because the limited procedures do not provide us with sufficient evidence to express an opinion or provide any assurance." So that's his opinion on the matters of the court audit. So if he can't do if he doesn't have sufficient evidence from y'all to do a sufficient report, then I don't know, something's not right there, something's lacking, because he needs to have a sufficient report. So is this the company we should have?
We'll run it to ground and get the AG to see if there is a conflict of interest. And then we'll report back to the committee.
Thanks. All right, with that, we're moving to 3D.
Discuss needs for special meetings for introductions and dates impacted by holiday schedule.
During the holiday schedule, particularly November, December, there's only one meeting versus two meetings that the parish would have. And that one meeting that we have is the one that falls on the holiday Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we need to be,
So you want to
think
flip-flop
this through
meetings put
and
them-
look at special meetings.
So you want November and December's meetings to be the first Thursday? The second Thursday of the
Second
month?
Thursday, vice.
Okay, does
fourth
anyone have a
Thursday.
problem with that? Okay, well, we'll ask the council secretary to,
She's actually got these on the calendar already for November the 10th and December the 8th. And this is an email from Kim Toops.
November 10th, and what's that second date?
And December the 8th.
let me ask you this, are those council meetings gonna be in Dayvan, or are they gonna be,
It should be in Bell Chase. Now,
Okay.
we usually have it in Dayvan,
because it's the only meeting that month?
right?
Okay. We had a couple questions up here about,
So that's good.
sorry, Point LaHash.
David. I'll let you know when we plan that.
All right. I'm still waiting for my tour, man. All right, so we'll do that, we'll just flip-flop, and we'll do it at the
That's
first
fine.
and the second. All right, anybody have any questions on that one? Any issues? Item 3E,
Discuss CEA with the parish for drainage and request a suspension of the rules on the parish council agenda.
Okay, this CEA, it is written, it's in the parish's hands. Shane was preparing a resolution for the parish president to sign with the suspension of the rules to expedite the matter. And basically what the CEA says is that the port will reimburse the parish for the time vested from the parish engineers to draw up the scope of work and oversee the bidding process and oversee the work.
so that was a question we had at the last council meeting, whether or not the port's gonna reimburse the parish for their time spent. The CEA is gonna cover that, and they will.
Did you have a warranty on that? It was,
A warranty?
don't laugh, don't, it says it right here in the port contract, that, that the parish shouldn't be held for anything that's actions of a warranty. So do we have a warranty on the property or not?
I'm gonna leave it to our expert legal team to add that into the,
Yeah, add that to the thing,
This
this
is
is not a
not-
warranty.
does anybody have any other questions about that on item E from the table?
This is just the engineering,
I'm gonna look over this stuff. I have a question, I'll call you.
it's not doing any of the physical work, right? This is just strictly the design work?
Design and oversight.
Is this having to do with the culverts?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Everything goes.
Drainage, culverts, yeah.
Could you tell me how big the culverts are, how the diameter and the length?
Mr. Dugas not here, but maybe Mr. Pennison knows.
Just off from memory, Barry. I want to say there was one they're going to replace. It's probably 24 inches, and they're going to go to 48. Then there was another situation where there's a 15-inch culvert. They're going to replace that with two 48-inch culverts. Then there's another area where there's, I think, a 4-foot and a 36-inch culvert, and they're going to go in with two 72-inch culverts.
You digging, man, with the cord, I tell you, you can't dig.
Probably 20, 25, 30
I'll see
feet
that.
around that. Whatever it takes, so the grade slope is correct and supports, whatever it takes to support that, whatever crosses over the culvert, so a driveway, if you will.
That'll have plastic.
It's-
I hope so.
That corrugated metal pipe is
It's
terrible, let's go with it.
Yeah, and especially in a saltwater environment.
And we having some issues with that in
Oh, yeah.
somebody's neighborhood?
Hey, they took it out and put more metal pipe in it.
Right,
Put it back the same way.
okay.
But I do hope that they get the specific grade of plastic for that. Don't get that stuff that's real thin, you pass on any cracks. There's a grade that you need to get the heavy grade.
Any other questions on 3E?
Yeah,
Something
one
like-
question I had, does that include the cleaning of the dishes and everything, or
No.
is just the culvert?
Yes.
Okay. And
We took that out, Ms. Sullivan took that out for resolution at the last council meeting.
Okay,
We missed you last meeting, by the
yeah.
way.
Mr. Black, if I can ask Ms. Sullivan a question. Have you received any information or resolutions from Shane as far as doing a suspension of the rules on the parish side? I followed up with him today. He was going to send you the information to do a suspension so we can hasten this process.
As of 5 minutes ago, I have not received
Okay,
anything.
I'll follow up and get in touch with you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, with that, we'll move to item 3F, land acquisition. Sorry, Brian. It's a habit.
That's okay.
Plus, I'm panicking over here because I got glitter everywhere, and I got a phobia on glitter. I guess I had craft today, I don't know. Anyway,
Thanks for sharing.
yeah. Nobody put glitter on my stuff. Thanks. Yeah, right, thanks. All right, we'll go to 3F. Sandy?
Yes, I was waiting for you to announce land acquisition.
Oh, I'm sorry, land acquisition.
Okay.
I got so involved in the glitter.
Okay, the land acquisition, our present option holder had requested a certain amount of acreage for their footprint. The property that the port owned was not adequate for that request, and so more land needs to be acquired to give them their original request. So a purchase agreement is in the process of being put together with the attorneys, and we will get that to you post haste once it's completed.
Are we outside of an NDA where we can discuss the parcels?
We're still within that NDA.
Okay. I think we had another question on land acquisition. Mr. Lawrence, you talked about the ag property. Now, which number parcel is the ag property on the?
It's separate.
It's totally separate?
It's a separate property, and it's between parcels 5 and 6 on the riverside.
And how many acres, do you know?
150 seems to come to mind. Now let me qualify that. The LSU, the Ag Center, has no river frontage.
What?
The Badger is not owned by the parish.
That's a part of parcel 6.
Yes.
Okay,
Who owns it?
parcel,
Parcel
the owner of
six.
parcel 6,
So 6.
which is Mr. White?
Yes, sir.
That's my understanding. He has, I think there's 8,000 linear feet.
Well,
North.
I think we got to go back to when Trident made its presentation, and it comes up with the idea of using that as part of the next step up with the port. When they made their presentation, they even claimed that it was already owned by the port in their presentation.
No, Mr. Lawrence, it's not owned by the port.
I know, but Trident said it was. I questioned it at that time because Mr. whatever his name, McCormick or whatever, the guy was supposed to, we were supposed to get prices on that to make it into
Oh, Mr. McCarthy?
yeah. So I don't know whatever happened to that action the council took, and we never heard no more about it. At that time, he was talking about making a port and everything there, and all of a sudden, we find out it's not port property, or, I mean, it is not, doesn't have riverfront, and Trident is saying that it's a deep water and everything else, and now we find out that all we pay in Trident is not, found out that not to be
Are
true.
we confusing maybe the Magnolia property?
No, this
That
is,
might, you know, I mean, because it is close by, I don't know if we're confusing that property with the Magnolia property.
no, this was definitely the Ag Center property, that, and it's the first time I've ever heard about it, that they don't have a riverside.
The Ag Center property, in conjunction with parcel 6, is in the design for the intermodal port, for the container port.
So I guess what he's
It
saying
would be-
is,
it would be
there is a potential for the port to purchase that property.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I think the acquisition of parcel 6 would be,
So you said Port 6 wraps around AG and the river?
yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
First ever heard of that.
Okay.
I hope,
any other questions on item 3F? All right, with none, we'll move to item 3G, and I want to welcome Mr. Eric Sundstrom. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate y'all letting me come to the committee meeting, and it's good to be back down here after 6.5 months of legislative session. Hopefully, I'll be back on the regular port agenda starting in October. Willing to come down, as always, to give my reports. I'll make it quick. As you know, it was a extremely rough year for the state's fiscal affairs. Capital outlay was tight, went through a whole redesign. The project that the port had was not received in capital outlay. I think now, after talking with Mr. Sanders through the summer, one of the things that the port should begin to look at along with capital outlay is port priority funding. As I understand it, we have some projects that may be coming down the pipe. The state almost doubled what they have in port priority now. So that will be a good use of some of that money if we can get in there. Those projects, we apply for those roughly every quarter, beginning the 1st of March, June, September, and December. I have all that information, and we can get a lot of that worked out over the next couple months if there's a project coming down, or it fits a little bit better for us instead of capital outlay when we can only put that request in once a year. That's still on the table. But the port priority projects is definitely another avenue we can tap into some state funds. I am planning on putting together a trip next month with the 2 transportation chairmen to come down and do a walkthrough on the port, along with some of the members of the local delegation. That date is to be determined. Mr. Sanders and I will be working on putting together a couple dates and trying to get those members down here, walk the port for the day, show the property off, and meet whomever we need to see.
Do me a favor when you do that. I had a meeting with Marty Schomburg
Yes, sir.
last week, the new director of LESCO. The governor
Okay.
just appointed him last Tuesday. He's very interested in coming down and see the port as
Yeah, I
well.
saw that appointment in the paper Sunday.
Yeah, I met with him last week. If you don't mind, if you want to include him in that one, otherwise, we can do something separate.
Sure.
But he wants to change the complexion of that entire office.
Right.
So I think he has a lot of interest in coming down to check out the port.
Great. It's
I will not try to spell his last name because he's from Chauvin.
Marty Chabert, C-H-A-B-E-R-T.
And it could be
He
spelled
is-
with X, well, I don't know, but
He is a former state senator. His father was the state senator down there. His
Brother Norby is-
his brother Norby is the current state senator. Just outside of Homa, encompasses most of the Terrebonne, Lafourche area.
so he's the new director of the Louisiana All Spill Coordinator's Office.
Yeah. Really nice guy.
Yeah, and they work hand in hand with CPRA. So it's a good office to get acquainted with.
Yeah.
Do we have any potential projects to even submit on that priority list, other than some of the Energy 23 initiatives?
We will have, I've been talking to Eric about that. When we first started, we didn't really have any projects to put in there, but now that as this is maturing, we're gonna chase the funds like everyone else does.
And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but your project needs to be fairly well along. Your engineering needs to be done. It'll go for like a peer review with the Ports Association of Louisiana, Department of Transportation.
The joint committees on transportation also.
Transportation, so it's.
Yeah.
And you have to show an economic justification for the project, and then it's prioritized by the,
Right.
by the government in conjunction with the Ports Association of Louisiana as to how the funding goes.
The 2 things I was highlighting was, one, there's double the funds now, so we're more apt to get something. And also, there's more time to apply for it. There's 4 months out of the year to, put things together. So right now, we're looking at, if we were to have a project, right now, we're, 6-8 months from March 1st. We would have time to put something together. If not, then, push it back or so forth. So there's more time throughout those years to get something on the board.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Sundstrom? With none,
Thanks for coming down so late.
yeah,
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Long drive back.
We will open up any other business. With none, we'll move to item 4, please.
Approval of the minutes of the August 2, 2016 Court Committee meeting.
I'll offer.
Mr. Byrd offers, thank you for a
Yes,
second.
second.
Ms. Alvan seconds.
Councilmember
Yes.
Bartholomew? Councilmember Black?
Yes,
Councilmember Byrd?
Yes.
Councilmember Trufant Saleh?
Yes.
passes 4-0. I'll ask for an offer to.
Offer.
Adjourn. Mr. Bartholomew, I'll say adjourn. Mr. Byrd seconds.
Councilmember Bartholomew?
Yes.
Councilmember Black?
Yes.
Councilmember Byrd?
Yes.
Councilmember Trufant Saleh?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We're adjourned at 6:05.